Hi and welcome to part 2 of the Snowflake cane. This one is the slightly more complex design where we add skinner blends in, and you can change this one up and make all sorts of different designs depending on the colours you use and also the thickness of your layers of polymer clay that you use. The tools are the same as before. We'll just put a list to the side here for you. And we're going to start by using 3 colours of polymer clay this time. So we have got half packs of white, and I'm going to stick with the same sort of colour scheme as I was going before. So I'm going to go white, a sort of pinky cerise and a blue. And I'm just going to condition all of these clays and get them ready to make into a skinner blend. Okay, so I have my 3 colours conditioned. I have my white, my blue and my pink. And I'm now going to make a skinner blend from the blue and the pink. So I'm just going to roughly cut a square or a rectangle, which is slightly more rectangular, this one, from my 2 colours. And because I'm using Fimo Soft in this one, I want a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the pink to show at either end, so I don't cut quite down through the middle. I leave a bit of an end, so not quite down to the diagonal, so I've left a little bit of an end. I then take my 2 pieces, turn one over the other and put them together like that. And then I'm just about to do the skinner blend where we turn it constantly backwards, top to bottom. And for anyone who doesn't know how to do a skinner blend, I'll add a little link in this video to take you through the video to do the skinner blend. So we now have our skinner blend, but I just want to neaten off the edges slightly. So I end up with one long oblong, and now I'm going to cut this into 2 relatively even slices. Now I'm working on a measuring sheet here, so it's quite easy for me, but you can use whatever you need to do, a ruler, a piece of graph paper, whatever you need, or just do it by eye. I think that should be roughly about half. Slice down through, and I'm going to face one that way and face that one that way, because we're about to layer them up. But we're going to put some of the white clay in between them. So I don't want too thick a layer for this. So this was on setting number 3, and I finished off on setting number 2 on the pasta machine doing these 2. So they're quite a nice thick setting. And I'm going to put this white through on quite a thin setting. I'm going to go down to setting number 6. So I'm just putting it through the pasta machine. And then we should be able to start layering up our pieces. So I'm just going to take that one off there, pull that one around there, and if I cut this side here and here, then I should in theory have a piece that I can now use to go over the top. I need to remember I had blue that side and pink that side, so I'm now going to repeat in the opposite direction when I lay that piece on top, and if I'm lucky, that piece might just about fit over the top. I'm going to pull it slightly. We'll make it fit. And then if I flip the whole piece over, using my tissue blade underneath, then I can see more easily to take off all the excess from the white clay of that side, because I'm going to use that white clay in a second, the same way as we did in our previous cane, to wrap around when I do the swirly bits. So just take the excess of clay off, and what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to chamfer the end slightly. So I'm going to use my tissue blade and cut down at an angle, so I've got a nice angle on one end. And now, because I've done that, I can start to roll that round. So I'll do it on the tile to give myself slightly better manoeuvrability, and I can keep it more even that way, and then I can start to create a nice swirl on that end. So we'll now do exactly what we did previously. Take the excess of the white clay we've got, roll it into a nice long log. So same as I did last time, using the flats of my hands just to roll it out. I don't need very much for this one, because we'll probably only put this back on itself about 3 or 4 times. Keep it as even as you can, and then just start fitting the clay in as you twirl this round. As I said in the previous one, random patterns work well on this, so don't overthink it. Just pull it backwards and forwards, and just keep pushing the clay around. Pull it back on itself. That's probably about the last one I need. And then I will just neaten off this end, similar way as I did with the previous one. Just do a little diagonal cut down the end, just to make sure it's relatively neat, because you often get a bit of messiness on one end. And you end up with a weird sort of shape, which looks like nothing on earth, but don't worry about that, because it's what we do with it now that makes the difference. And I'm going to force that into a triangular shape. I'll decide where I want the point to be, so probably something like that, just to create a different shape. And I'll put this side flat, and then with my fingers, force this top bit into a triangular shape, and then just pull your fingers across the top to force it into a triangle. I'll use my fingers on either end as well to make sure it's not getting out of shape on either end, and just keep pulling and repeating. And because this is quite a thick amount of clay and the layers of clay I've got in here are quite thick, I might do more than one of this cutting and putting into triangles. We'll see what pattern we've got when we cut through. So we've got that, so we put it together, we'll get that sort of pattern. Or we could put it together that way and get that pattern. Or put it together that way and get that pattern. Actually, I don't think I will do it twice. I quite like that. It's going to be quite a nice bold pattern. So I'm just going to make sure, if you can see as you go down these sides, you can see where these two lines go. I'm just going to marry those up to make sure my bottom end fits as much as my top end, and then I just need to decide which bit I want to put flat and which bit I want to put into a top, because I need to make this back into, this diamond shape needs to go into a triangle. So I think I will put that bit to the top. So just holding that bit tightly close to my fingers, I'm going to use, let me turn that around so you can see it, I'm going to use my other fingers to push down flat along the length, and by doing that you end up putting it back into a triangular shape. And now all you need to do is just pull with your fingers whilst pushing slightly inwards, so you increase the length of your piece. That's all I'm doing, working along the length, pulling to make it longer. So when you get to a length that you're happy with, about 3 inches, 7.5 centimetres, I'm just going to take the roller and I'm going to put that along the length, and then you can start to curl either end up round the roller and then work all your way along to the end. Pull it out if it's become short at the bottom. Then we're going to close up that groove, and we do that by pushing in one end and then to the other, and again pull it if it's gone distorted, and then I'm just going to create a diamond shape, and I'm doing that by pushing in with my fingers. I'm not pulling out, I'm literally pushing those two thumbs and fingers together, and that way you create the diamond shape. You can then finesse it slightly along your board, and then we're looking to cut down diagonally through. And if you want advice on how to cut down diagonally through, you'll see that in the previous video. I'll do the link to it here. And now we're going to start putting all these pieces together. I want this to be quite nice and thin, so it fits in towards the middle. So I'm just going to push my bits in slightly to make them a thinner diagonal at the top, so it's better angle. And again, working with angles, you can see that in the previous video. And now what I'm going to do is take off some slices, so I'll tidy up the end again, and we'll take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nice little angles. And if I find my little sheet, which I use just a piece of baking sheet to put these on, these are very thick because I want this to be a Christmas tree decoration. You can do whatever size you want, and I'm just looking as I go to make sure that I'm going to marry up the patterns. You have to alternate, so each one sort of gets turned slightly to make sure that the patterns marry, and then hopefully put that last one there, which should join up with that one there, and we end up with our snowflake pattern. There is obviously a hole in the middle, same as there was on the previous one we did. And all I'm going to do is exactly the same as I did previously, just roll that in towards the middle, then roll down the seams to make sure everything's nicely joined in. And then all we need to do, once we've done both sides, is just to reposition those points and finesse it in any way we want to make it look nice. And if we want to add a little glass chaton, like we did in the previous one, just take your needle, create a little groove in the middle, get yourself one from your selection. I think I'll stick with the blue here, and as the previous in the previous ones, these are little glass chatons which have got the pointed bits, so I just found a bit of a groove there, a bit of a hole, so I can put that in with my finger, press it nice and firmly in, and then I'll pop that out once it's cooked, and then re-put it in with super glue. And because I am doing a Christmas tree decoration, I just need a little hole in there so that I can then add wire or a jump ring in, and then that will go on the tile, and I'll either bake them either on a piece of card or on a piece of baking parchment so that they don't get shine on the underneath of them, and once they're baked they're ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed that second little snowflake tutorial, and as always join me again for any other videos I post in the future. Bye.